Go ahead and call the meeting to order then. Everybody had a happy 4th.
Yes.
Bear with me, it's been a while since I've had to sit in for leave. The first item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is it, okay, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Do we need a motion to approve it?
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of approving minutes,
Aye.
of approving the consent agenda? Did you get all of us? Okay, the first item on our new business is ST 2508, public hearing for Sawgrass Consulting's final plat approval of a re-subdivision that Mike will walk us through.
Good evening, Mike Jeffries, City of Fairhope. So, as you said, Ms. Chairwoman, this is a public hearing to consider the request of the applicant Sawgrass Consulting on behalf of the owner FST Rockwell LLC for its actually final plat approval for Rockwell Place. It's a 10-lot major subdivision. It's approximately 13 acres. It is zoned B2 in the general business district on the east side of State Highway 81, south of the Harvest Green East subdivision, and across from the Water subdivision. Directly to the south of this is the Encounter development. On the screen on the left is the zoning map. You'll see to the north is again that Harvest Green East, and to the south is the other general business. On the right is the aerial. The county is a little outdated. We'll have a more updated aerial here in the next few slides. On the screen is a copy of the site data table with a copy of the plat. Again, this is 10 commercial lots. They do not have access to Highway 181. I will call out that between lots 1 through 8, there are 4 ingress and egress locations noted. These will be the required ingress and egress for the lots to share. So lots 1 and 2 have a shared access, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, and 7 and 8. Each of those bundles have their own ingress egress to share. Lot 9 and 10 will be able to access Bushel Drive as they see fit. On the screen is a more recent aerial. This was taken in May. This was actually before the site was completely stable and vegetated. It was held off 1 month. So the site now currently, when you go out there, is completely stabilized. Some of those areas that are barren have growth actively, and landscaping has all been installed. This was a re-subdivision of Lot 1. A brief history was this was a 2-lot subdivision. To the east side is the Rockwell Apartments, not part of this subdivision. And this was a re-subdivision of the one other large lot that was created along Highway 181. It then annexed into the city along with the Bushel Drive right-of-way that was accepted for maintenance to the city. City has gone out and inspected all the utilities. The roadway was all installed with a previous 2-lot major subdivision to do that, and these 10 lots will simply be tying into the existing infrastructure that is out there. We do have one note on the plat for the water services lots, and we'll get to that as another note on here right now. The water services for lots 1 through 9, those will come from the water main located along Highway 181. Lot 10 does not have access to Highway 181, so it will be allowed to connect to the water line on Bushel Drive. Reason being is the water services on the other side of the road, which would require a lot of either road cuts, tearing up of sidewalks, so the water department is requiring this connection. There is a mandatory site plan review for all future development. There's a multi-use path along 181 with landscaping that connects to the Encounter development multi-use path. The drainage has all been master planned for the entire site is installed. Some of that drainage includes some of the shallow landscape depressions along Bushel Drive. And the front of the lots, that is inside of a drainage easement. During normal conditions, that area will be dry and sodded. Those areas have also been incorporated into the operation and maintenance plan, so those will be maintained throughout the perpetuity of these properties. We've already mentioned the shared access points. And then the green space is provided via the 30-foot wide greenway along the north and west boundary lines of the property. Copy of the green space plan. The line in red is a sidewalk used to connect that pathway to Bushel Drive as well. Staff's recommendation is approval of SD 25.08 Rockwell Place re-subdivision. I'll be happy to answer any questions on behalf of staff, and Tim Lawley with Sawgrass Consulting is with us and can answer any questions on behalf of the engineer.
We don't have any questions for staff. Should we open the public hearing? Anyone in the public wish to speak to this item? Public hearing's closed. Does anyone have any questions for the developer, or does the developer wish to speak?
Not unless you have any questions.
Okay. Well, in that case, we'll have discussion or a motion.
I move we approve SD 25.08 Rockwell Place re-subdivision.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay. The next item on the agenda is SD 2509 El Piso, two-lot minor subdivision. Did I say that right?
You sure did. So the owner is the El Piso Corporation. Mr. Evan Geertz of DDG is the authorized agent. The applicant's requesting approval of a re-subdivision of a former subdivision, is a two-lot minor subdivision. The property is currently zoned M1, the light industrial district. The property is approximately 17 acres, and it's located at 8100 McGowan Drive. McGowan Drive being located south of the airport off of Highway 98. The airport is actually on the east side of this property itself. On the screen, on the left is a zoning map. All the properties to the east, north, and west are all zoned M1. Properties to the south are in Baldwin County. The area to the right is an aerial image. You can see there's already an existing facility on the northern portion of this lot. The purpose of this subdivision is to cut out the area on the southern portion for potential future development. On the screen is our site data table. The right is the plat. I did an enlargement of the lot 1B. Wanted to focus in. There is some existing drainage that it was from the previous development located on this site, where there's a temporary easement shown here to encapsulate that. And there is also a 15-foot drainage and utility easement that runs around the perimeter. Any future development would have to relocate this drainage. We have seen schematic plans drawn up showing where this drainage would be relocated. So we feel confident that when the property is redeveloped, that the drainage can be done. They will have to provide the drainage plans at that time. There is notes on the plat that 15-foot drainage easement is temporary and will be abandoned at time of future development. A little close-up image of the site. North is to your left. That's the existing Seegers building there. On this, I'll draw your attention to the top of the screen. It's actually the east side of the property. That's the 50-foot wide strip of the property we'll be accessing to that large green area back there. That roadway will remain the private drive as it is now, with an ingress and egress easement to allow Seegers to still use those entrances. All the lots are within 450 feet of a fire hydrant. Each lot fronts on a paved, publicly maintained road. It is a minor subdivision. It has been reviewed that way. There's not including any infrastructure at this time or any improvements to the street. Therefore, the tree protection plan, landscape plan, some of the other items that we'll typically see for a major subdivision are not applicable. The proposed subdivision did not trigger the traffic study. The provision of sidewalks along all the streets. Sidewalks currently don't exist along McGowan Drive. The applicant has requested to provide an easement for the sidewalk and in lieu of stalling the sidewalks, and a note to the applicant that the final plat must be recorded within 120 days of approval. The drainage, we discussed that. Again, there's a note on the plat for the drainage to be temporary at future development. Utility comments, water, sewer, and gas is provided by the city of Fairhope. Power is provided by Riviera. AT&T is the communications provider. The water and sewer that's available along McGowan Drive will require any coordination and all testing and reporting to be done through Fairhope Public Utilities. at future development. It will require a large utility line or water line to connect to McGowan Drive, to go down that 50-foot wide strip along the side of the existing private driveway that is there. And at any time, the current standards and specification for the water and sewer will have to be followed, and all testing done to meet Fairhope utility requirements. Connectivity, so we discussed the applicants requesting the sidewalk easement in lieu of installing it. The driveway is right now determined to remain private and will reflect an ingress-egress easement to allow access across. Staff's recommendation is approval of SD 25.09, re-subdivision of Lot 1, Aviation Industrial Group replat subdivision with the following conditions: the approval of the sidewalk easement. All required utility testing is coordinated with Fairhope Public Utilities at time of future development. The ingress-egress easement is added to the private drive to allow the northern lot access, and label the lots Lot 1 and Lot 2. And if there's any questions on behalf of staff, I'd be happy to answer them. And we have representation from DDG here with us tonight that can answer questions on behalf of the applicant.
Just to verify, the drainage relocation and any line they have to bring down from McGowan will be handled at permitting.
That is correct. Yes, sir. And currently, we're only anticipating from the plans that we did see is that the drainage relocation would only occur on the southern portion to get it to the eastern side to tie in back to the drainage that is there, rerouting the initial part of that drainage line. Okay.
Are there questions for staff, or not? We'll open the public hearing on 2509. Does anyone in the public wish to speak to this item? Y'all are all here for a couple more down the agenda. We'll close the public hearing, and would the developer wish to speak?
Only if you have any questions.
Like, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve SD 2509 El Piso, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On that, so the motion passes. And lost my, here we go. Move on to the next item on the agenda.
12.
Magnolia Beach Estates. No? SD 2512, Magnolia Beach Estates. It says 2512 on ours.
Yeah, there's a small one, 2511 on the
25.
agenda.
Water and sewer special.
Not in our email,
Item C,
not in the email.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to, you're going to have to walk us through it.
It's a simple one.
Okay, thank you.
So
Okay, so item 2511, public hearing to accept resolution 2025-04 for the proposed revisions to the City of Fairhope water and sewer specifications. So we didn't get the revisions. We saw the agenda item, but we haven't.
I've got it on mine.
You do?
I don't have it in my email.
Yeah.
okay.
It goes
You
right
have an
to
inside
12.
track.
You just don't like us.
I think it's the same packet that goes out, so we'll figure that out. We'll go through. It was advertised appropriately, so it's really a simple. And if you want to discuss it, we can. If we want to table it, we can. But I think it's very simple. As your planning commission know, the standard specifications and for constructing sanitary sewer facilities and water facilities have to come to the planning commission for approval for anything in Division 1 and Division 2. This is, I kind of put it on the page of what's, the amendments are pretty minor. We approved this section, I think earlier this year. There was a couple of things left out, so this is very simple language. All the amendments are right here on the screen. Section A6 is amendment that just clarifying that water lines must be a minimum of 18 inches vertically above sewer lines. You would think that would go without saying, but it has to be above, the water lines need to be above sewer lines. So ironically, we don't allow that, but people sometimes argue that one. So they wanted to make sure that that was clear. Section B11, Division 2 is design criteria. So if there's any structural buildings for lift stations, pump houses, things like that, it requires LED lights. Right now, it just requires standard voltage, the old incandescent bulbs. So it was a change to require the LED bulbs and the electric receptacle. I don't know why we ever went from 220 to 240, but right now it reads 220, so they clarified it should be 240. Very minor. And then the additional in section B, I've redlined what exactly is the change. It was just additional language you see in red for those two comments, that sanitary sewer is laid with uniform slope between sanitary sewer manholes, not all manholes in the road. So it's clarifying that just for people. And then I don't fully understand the piping configurations for permanent suction and discharge, but I feel that they know what they're doing, so fully support that. It was just a clarification in the specifications. That's what it is.
I'm not sure who saw it and who didn't based on it, but did
Right.
people feel comfortable that we have a full enough understanding of this to vote on it? I mean, that seems pretty straightforward.
This has all been engineered and best practices.
That's
and all
coming
that.
straight from
It's
our
not even really
water and sewer
substantive.
department.
Yeah. Oh, and it is in the package.
Oh,
Okay, it's
Okay.
after Magnolia Beach in the packet.
okay, so we just missed it.
So the packet's just
And
flip the
and I'd like
agenda.
to ask, when you put it in the package, highlight what you're changing, because there's
Still
nothing
don't
but let
see
us
it.
know what's changing in here.
Okay, sure. And that's kind of the resolution, but we can kind of summarize that.
Are there any questions for staff on this? In that case, we'll open a public hearing. It's a public hearing, right? Would anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Close the public, well, are you sure? We'll close the public hearing. And we'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve resolution number 2025-04, a resolution amending Article 6, Sections F, C, and H2 of the City of Fairhope subdivision regulations to revise Division 2 of the standard specifications for constructing sanitary sewer facilities and water facilities.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and now
Right, I got it. I'll flow through this one.
we can consider the item, this SD 2512 for the Magnolia Beach Estates,
Yes.
the two-lot minor subdivision.
I'm going to go really quick on this. If we need to answer questions, we can do it if there's questions of the public hearing. This was an approved project that required a sidewalk. So to get you on board of where this is behind the existing, Barron's Inn. We had a public hearing, we approved it. They came back and we had an informal conversation about it. It expired, so it's back. We did a more vetting on whether the sidewalk needed to be installed or an easement provided. This is exactly the same case with just an easement in lieu, instead of the,
Change the name, rather than, prior to this, they changed the name instead of Magnolia Beach Estates as the condition of approval.
so. if we
In the
need-
previous approval, was a sidewalk required instead of an easement?
Sidewalk we debated it at the original meeting. At the
Pedestrian.
time, the city was looking at making a connection, we didn't know where, tied to the Legion.
Yeah.
And that is not going to be back to this property. So they asked, do we need to install that? There's a lot of moving of utilities and other things, and we don't know if Pecan will ever have not Pecan, Laurel will ever have a sidewalk that far down. So we do have the easement in lieu of that installation. So That's the two conditions that were there. Because the other one expired, we do recommend approval with those two conditions to memorialize that for the new case number.
It just gives me a little bit of heartburn with Lee not being here, of all people, that we're easing up on the sidewalk.
He was
Well,
the
if you
one
re-
championing this.
Okay.
In the informal meeting. I'm not sure if you were there or not, but he
We had
was.
an informal discussion at the planning commission as well a few months ago.
Okay.
Discussing this to see if there was any.
Where would
heartburn
we
for
put
that.
it, that kind of thing? I remember there was a brief discussion
I
because you
remember
threw
that.
us
Some
off. We
tree-
didn't know
there's
where it
some-
was
yeah.
coming from.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some, I think the applicant said there were some trees to be removed.
Right.
and some utility poles. would
Big
have
tree
to
in the
be
way.
Okay,
relocated.
yeah.
Heritage trees in the way,
We need to take
utilities in
down-
line, and then the sidewalk project has now been confirmed of where it's going, and it's not going in this direction now.
Okay. We'll open the public hearing. Does anyone in the public wish to speak to this item? Come on up and state your name and address for the record.
Sean Richmond. My mom, Kitty Richmond, Crumpton, is subdividing the lot at 104 Earl Street. And we were hoping to get a easement instead of an installation, because in the front, there is a AT&T fiber optic underground switch panel thing that be right in the way. We have a big oak tree right there that'd have to come out. Our neighbor has a bigger one. And we were just hoping that we could avoid this.
Yeah, I think that's, in my opinion, that's reasonable. Everybody has their own opinions, but thank you. Do you
Sir?
have anything else to?
Yeah, sir, what was your name again?
Sean Richmond.
Okay, thank you.
With the city sidewalk scrapped and large mature trees, that's a argument holds water with me. Else have comments or questions? What?
Got to close it.
Close the public hearing, I'm sorry. Thank you for your comments. We'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve SD 25 point, first, I move we grant the sidewalk easement, the sidewalk waiver in lieu of an easement for this property.
It's actually not a
condition.
waiver any longer, so we,
It's
good
just
memory.
staff recommendations
Yeah,
now.
it's just staff recommendations. We
Okay,
would remove the waiver.
Move we approve
requirement.
SD 25.12 Magnolia Beach Estates, soon to be served with staff recommendations.
I second that.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Michelle's going to present the next two cases. They're intrinsically linked. I want to set the tone a little bit for
Sure.
anyone that's here. This is a rezoning case that doesn't have to do with any site plan. We're not reviewing any proposals, new development, anything else coming along that is increasing traffic, changing what's there, hopefully, other than hopefully making it better. Yes.
Well, and Michelle will probably touch on what the existing zoning allows in terms of commercial development and the difference.
I know we had a lot of comments,
I'm assuming that's everybody's.
so just want to make sure that we know there's no site plan or any approvals with this.
And it's a recommendation to City Council for Planning Commission as well. So it doesn't stop here. Okay, so this is for conditional annexations for Smith Fresh Kitchen and Smith Straw that want to become city-zoned R2. So, B2, sorry, I don't know why I put R2, B2. Did I put, yep, it should be B2 on there. It's B2 on here. So the applicant's owners are Gold Kiss Corner LLC and Advantage Holdings LLC. They request the conditional annexation with their zoning to B2 General Business District. The properties are directly adjacent to each other on the southwest corner of Alabama Highways 181 and 104, so across 104 from the Plantation Point Publix development. Gold Kiss property is approximately 4.65 acres, and Advantage property is approximately 2.23 acres. And Lieb Engineering is the authorized agent for both. So the first one is Gold Kiss Corner, which is doing business as the hub, which is that convenience store gas station. That's what you see. And also Sweat Tire is on that parcel, which you're probably all familiar with. And it's this red highlighted one on the left, and then the yellow. And then the next one is Advantage Holdings LLC, which is doing business as Smith Straw, which isn't colored in, but it's that yellow L-shaped one. And it has Smith Straw and a U-Haul business currently on it. And that's what they look like. This is the county zoning, so county zoning across the street, across 181. So they're currently zoned B4, major commercial district by the county. I went into the operating businesses. The U-Haul business is allegedly dwindling down. That's what we've heard. And there's also a communications tower on that Smith Straw property. So here are the permitted uses for Baldwin County B4. Some of these, and you'll see the B2 for us as well, some are the same, but an amusement park we wouldn't allow, whereas the county does. Or an RV park, that might be in ours, but the amusement park we had a fun time with on that one. So they desire to be B2 General Business District if annexed into the city, and we support that for the subject properties because the B2 is the most similar district to the county's B4, which is what we are required to do. And teeny tiny over here, you can see our B2 uses. I can't see them, but maybe you guys can on your screen. But amusement park's not on there. So here's some recent drone shots. So that bigger one is the hub, and then Sweat Tire's that red and off-white building. You can see the semi-trailers that's behind Sweat Tire. That's where this Pine Straw business operates out of. So they just open those doors and the Pine Straw's in there. And then there's some scattered U-Haul vehicles around as well. And then there's a close-up on some of the remaining U-Haul vehicles. And you can see there's a communications tower pole on the Smith Straw property, which backs up to the Hollowbrook subdivision, which is in the city. So there's another closer-up drone shot that shows the base of the pole, Hollowbrook subdivision, Sweat Tire, Smith Straw, U-Haul business. So if these are annexed in the city, all city regulations will apply going forward for future development. So there's a lot of things that will come into play. They both have incompatible uses that are directly adjacent. The Smith Fresh Kitchen has residential single-family estate zoned by the county to the west, and Smith Straw has the Hollowbrook subdivision, which is R1 by the city to the south, and also that same RSFE county to the north. So the tree ordinance makes reference to 10-foot buffer strips along any incompatible property lines, whereas the zoning ordinance asks for 20 feet. So they don't say the same thing. We would prefer as staff to have 20-foot landscape buffer for both parcels wherever they abut residential property, but that's up to the Planning Commission to go. But we would also support planting of trees and shrubs as well, just to kind of fill it in. But that's up to you guys and City Council. We did receive citizen comments, and none of them were favorable, but most of them were about congestion and due to the existing commercial activity, which is not changing with the zoning, and also a general disappointment in AlDOT for not following up or following through or even entertaining another ingress and egress for Hollowbrook subdivision when they're doing all that Highway 181. And then at least one business, like I said, there were storage shed sales on the Smith Straw property, which has dwindled down, and U-Haul is allegedly going away too. So there was a comment about the communications tower, about property values going down, but that's been there for a long time, and it was put there when it was in the county. our city regulations wouldn't allow something like that to be built, so if it's annexed in, the cell tower would be a legal non-conforming use. So, and just because we're rezoning from a county district to a similar city district doesn't inherently mean there's going to be a whole much more traffic, because it's staying the same as we know it for now. But that's kind of these little maps you can see. Ours is the city zoning is to the right with that pink and yellow. It's all business. And then that first one we've seen before with the county. So it's business properties. There are no wetlands whatsoever on the subject property, per the engineer of record, because we asked about it. Utilities, water, sewer, and gas shall be supplied by Fairhope Utilities, and Riviera will provide the power. And this, I meant to put "and" up here, and not R2, it's B2. I was asleep at the wheel when we did that, so we'll have to redo that. So we do recommend approval of both to B2, with the landscape buffer being 20 feet for both. And for the Smith Straw, provide the city the lessor lessee information for the communications tower lease. I think the staff report only reads lessor in that, but lots of times there's two lessors. The property owner will lease it to a communications company, and then they sublease it out.
Your
So
slide says R2.
yeah, I said B2. Yes, I said I was.
It says R2 on
No,
the.
no, but it's
Yeah,
supposed to be B.
It's B2. I said I was asleep at the wheel. I did a disclaimer. Yeah.
We'll have to be clear in our motion.
Yes. So Chris Lieb's here and one of the owners.
And we do, with the zoning change, you'll know the kind of conflicts between the tree ordinance, we've talked about it before, but this is a zoning change, and I think very clearly, and I do think there's, even like against Hollowbrook, there's some kind of drainage right outside the fence. So even if you had a 10-foot buffer, that you really would be limited what you can go ahead and plant there. So a 20-foot that would give them, in case there was ever any development, go ahead and have it in the approval, so that it's kind of wet. It's kind of like our wetland ordinance. If there is something on a plat, it's a 30-foot buffer. If it wasn't predated that, then it goes to a 20-foot buffer. So I'm kind of thinking that's the intent of the tree ordinance, whereas now we're looking at the zoning change and can propose that condition.
I had a question,
Go ahead.
one thing that comes up when we talk about zoning properties is that you can have an existing grandfathered in, non-conforming use, but then if it were a building, if you were to not occupy it for a year, you would have to then bring it up to current zoning. There's off-ramps where the non-conforming get phased out if they have to be rebuilt or something happens. I can't imagine what would happen to a cell tower, but I was, is there an off-ramp for God forbid the thing falls down, and it's not going to ever go out of use, probably. They're probably such a, but as an existing non-conforming, there's I guess I'm talking myself in a circle. The idea is that if you can't enlarge it or make substantial changes to it, if you get over a certain percentage of change, that you got to come into compliance, correct?
I
Well, with
believe
the
it
cell
is
towers-
non-conforming structures.
Yeah.
So they would, let's say it was knocked down, heaven forbid, and
Yeah.
Yeah, how about
The,
that?
It does have breakaway things.
yeah. That would fall under the non-conforming structures, where if it was I can't remember the language, I don't want to speculate, it's in our zoning ordinance, but say a hurricane, then they would have a year to build that back.
Yeah.
If not, I would, based on my
Yeah.
memory, I would think that would fall under the same structure guidelines that a house would. I can confirm that for you without the zoning ordinance in front of me.
I just.
I can kind of.
And without the details, I would agree with that from a legal perspective. I mean, subject to whatever hypothetical you're coming up with, but I think the provisions of the zoning ordinance would also govern that.
Apply.
I don't think that would apply to voluntarily, we want to take down and build bigger, or build newer, or build something else. But it's a relatively new
It is.
structure.
Unfortunately, I was very involved in the construction of that tower. One of the things that we will need to look at is I ran into, when it was coming in, this was unzoned county. when the tower was done, and at that time, we were permitting in the police jurisdiction. So it was unzoned, there were no restrictions that they couldn't do it. Now, we made them get us FAA hazard to navigation, we made them give us an FCC registration, they had to certify and give us additional information about the structure. But at some point, there are FCC regulations that might come into play when you're talking about if it were damaged or if it fell into disuse for a certain amount of time. If that were to come up, I would certainly call council and we'd look into it. I know that this thing had all kinds of FCC regulations that came into play when it was permitted. And I know a lot of times there's different things that we deal with as permitting and approval, that when you have those underlying federal regulations that sometimes create issues that limit what you might or might not be able to do. Follow me?
I do. I was trying to think if which direction that moves in. Does it
Yeah.
permanently allowed, or, that we can't say it's not permanent?
Yeah, as it stands now, I guess it is a legal non-conforming, which means we can't tell them to take it down. We can't do that. The question would become if it either, for whatever reason, they decide not to use it anymore and it goes in a period of a year, or whatever the number is, where it's not being used. On a cell tower, that is highly, highly unlikely. So I don't know how that'd work. I just wanted to bring up, talking about that though, I had multiple conversations with the engineer and the FCC and the FAA and all of those folks when all of this was looked at, and that could come into play.
Well, I guess the clean thing we could say is if annexed in and it becomes Fairhope, they couldn't build another one.
That is correct.
'Cause it
Or
right by.
expand it, correct?
right.
They can't
So
expand.
reading that, and I did what I'd said, I think it is a structure and that section would apply. It cannot be expanded. The non-conforming compliance could not be expanded vertically or horizontally. So any additions would have to fall under our current regulations. So, you can have, I'm just thinking of anything possible. This is not proposed, but you can have additional connections and a supporting generator or something at the ground level that would have to follow our regulations. Doesn't mean the generator wouldn't be allowed, but we have a noise ordinance, and how that's screened would be something we would look at.
I don't mean to take too much time with that.
No,
Help
that's
them.
good because, yeah.
I have a question. Is it staff recommendation for the 20-foot buffer on both parcels?
Correct.
Okay,
Where they abut the residential
Residential.
property.
okay.
County or city?
Mhm.
Residential?
Yes.
County or
I
city?
think we're just city.
No,
The
it's
west side-
RSFE.
The west side of one of them butts
Yeah.
up to county residential too.
Right.
Yes, if it's residential.
And just
we
the
don't
lesser
make the
lessee
distinction.
information from the Smith Straw one as well.
All right.
And B2. Clearly, I was on vacation already. I'm sorry.
They may have more questions for Michelle. We'll open thank you. And we'll just be careful in our motions to refer to B2.
What I would suggest also is to take them separately, one at a time. Public hearing for one, closed public hearing, vote on one, public hearing for the second. Even though we handled it from the staff level, because they're obviously related, but just if you would be so kind to take them separately, I'd appreciate it.
Well, no, that's what I was doing, just because she didn't. Okay, so we will open the public hearing at this time for ZC 2504. Would anybody in the public wish to speak to this item? And please state your name and address, and we appreciate all your comments, but be cognizant if somebody already has made a point that we've heard it, so make the new one, but you don't need to repeat something.
Gary Gover, 300 Lincoln Street in Fairhope. Both of these items have to do with a suburban mixed-use center as described in our current comprehensive plan. And when I look at that, one of the requirements for those centers is that they be friendly to pedestrians and bicyclists. When I look at the information that was in the package, there isn't any obvious provision for those things that would make it comfortable for bicyclists or pedestrians. And this is an extremely challenging intersection for those purposes. So I was just concerned that maybe this would be an opportunity to establish that idea for this action. Right?
Anybody else like to speak? Oh, they would. Okay, in that case, we'll close the public hearing. I guess I have a question. There are no proposed site plan. There's not a proposed site plan. There's not a proposed change. So I assumed that issues of connectivity and sidewalks would be brought up with the site plan when a change is happening. That said, we've also had some other subdivisions where we required easements and connectivity.
Subdivisions, yes, PUDs, things like that.
But not
that had a
zoning.
site plan, not within just a zoning case. So this would be accepting what is there. And there's some other non-conforming things that we kind of struggled with where to recommend. 104 has a 20-foot landscape buffer required abutting the street within the city limits. As you see on that corner, it's mostly asphalt because of the way that driveway was designed. That wouldn't be something that we're going to go make them pull up and not have access to their parking lot today. But if it's ever developed, it would follow our rules and regulations instead of the county's. So that's when the opportunity, and that could be many different things. It can be straight to a building permit. It could be a subdivision case. It could be a site plan review. We don't have any of those things in front of us to look at and make those calls right now. So by being in the city and having B2, all of those comprehensive plans, all of those things would apply whenever there was any changes made.
Just for the record, would like to say, driving in there and going in Hollowbrook, it's outside of our jurisdiction right now, but you can see the issue they have with the turn in, and it's terribly tight, and people are going really fast down the road, and, wish them the best of luck with LDOT and getting that remedied. I don't see that these will make a substantive change in that problem. Probably the apartments did. But it's, it is a real issue. It's just sort of outside of our scope. Are there any other?
I have a question. Based on the recommendation shown on the screen, is it correct that there were no conditions with 25.04? The conditions shown were with 25.05?
No, it should read "and" for the 20-foot
Got it.
landscape for
Got
both
it.
of them.
Okay. I want to make
Just
sure.
the self tower for
Okay.
Smith Straw.
MB2.
Okay.
And you see, when we first got the application, there were multiple kind of non-conforming uses. There was some that didn't even have business license. So if you drove by and saw all the kind of, I call them Butler buildings, but it's just one brand. The portable buildings, there was a lot of those and some other things, and those have been cleaned up. That was one of the things that, we need clarity before we can move forward with the recommendations. So those have been cleared up over the last couple of months.
I move,
Counsel,
I move we,
Close the hearing?
Close the
Hi,
hearing.
sorry. Let's close the public hearing.
Oh, you're
It
welcome.
takes a whole commission.
It's been a long day after a 4th of July weekend, and I'm
developer needs to
listening.
talk to. Developer needs a chance to.
Oh, well, and would the developer like to speak?
Not unless y'all have any questions for us.
For comments, guys? Or it's a recommendation, not a,
I move we recommend to the city council approval of ZC 25.04 Smith Fresh Kitchen conditional annexation to B2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You're good. I was just going to say, the staff recommendation, just reiterating the 20-foot, but the one applicable to the tower doesn't apply to Fresh Kitchen. I think you are good. Did you count the vote?
We voted and seconded.
And everybody's,
And-
and everybody is unanimous? Just for the record, unanimous?
Anyone
It said
opposed?
2504.
2504, yeah.
The recommendation. Michelle's going to present 2505.
I did it together.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So we'll open the public hearing for 2505. Smith Straw, conditional annexation. Is there anybody who'd like to speak to this?
I'll give you guys the information on this one. Oh, you said separate the recommendation page. Okay, gotcha.
Okay. Did I close? Close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed with and the developer is okay unless we have any questions.
Just in case for the public, to make sure
Uh,
they understood what we just did, there's two cases. So if anyone would like to speak on the second one that is adjacent to the first one, now would be the time if you wanted to speak about the property where the
Yeah, if you're
gas
interested in
station is.
either, yeah, the second property that was
Oh,
presented by
I'm sorry,
Michelle.
Ms. Straw.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Good.
Are we not going to go through and close it and start over with a 2505?
I just did that.
We did.
Okay.
Just, we'd had some discussion in the middle of it, which made it a little blurry.
I thought we were
have
still on 2404,
No, we
talking about it.
We
Okay.
passed that, so 2505 has had a public hearing, we've closed it. The developers doesn't need to speak unless we have a question for him, and we are now either discussing amongst ourselves or making a motion to recommend.
You know,
or
if I would
not.
just request when you make the motion, if you're referring to the specific staff recommendation, since they're on the same screen, just state which ones you are, just so the record's clear. Thank you.
I move we recommend to city council conditional approval of 25.05 Smith Straw conditional annexation to B2 with the following conditions. One, provide the city the lessor lessee for the communications tower lease. Two, a 20-foot landscape buffer shall be required along all property lines abutting residential zoned property in compliance with Article 4, Section B2 of the zoning ordinance.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Recommendation. All opposed, any opposed? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
And I move we adjourn.
You're doing a great job.
I will second.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, meeting adjourned.